Story. Alright, before I talk about the actual mode, Dragon Battle Collection, I'm going to discuss the character roster and the stages real quick. They are fairly disappointing. There are only 40 characters, which isn't too bad. It's not something that I care that much about, but they're still missing out on necessary characters like Ultimate Gohan. While I would agree that some of the characters in Tenkaichi 3 were useless, at least a third of the cuts in this game are uncalled for and unjustified. Why, Spike? And with the stages, even though they are much larger this time around, there's only like 10 of them, which may get repetitive eventually. Furthermore, this is a Z-only game, which is ironic because it's called Dragon Ball Raging Blast instead of Dragon Ball Z Raging Blast. There is nothing from Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball GT in this game at all, which sucks. I know one big selling point for this game was the two exclusive characters, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Broly. It's not that I feel ripped off per se, but these two characters aren't really that special. They aren't even true, genuine, exclusive characters to begin with. They shouldn't even be separate characters from regular Vegeta and Broly. The only reason they separated them was for marketing purposes. So I really don't have much more to say about this, even though they may be fun to play as at first. Their inclusion in this game isn't a big deal at all. So now let's look at Raging Blast Story Mode, Dragon Battle Collection. Some people love it, some people hate it. As usual, I'm kinda in the middle here. Just like most story modes in Dragon Ball Z games, it has its ups and downs. Let's look at the ups first. First off, the way it's set up with the floating dioramas of the characters pertaining to each battle is very creative and enjoyable to look at. The second thing I really like about story mode is the fact that it is non-linear. All the sagas are available to jump into from the start, so if you want to start with the Android Saga or Majin Buu Saga before doing the Saiyan Saga, go ahead. I don't think I'm the only one here who is getting tired of having to play through the Saiyan Saga starting with Raditz, then the Frieza Saga, and so on and so forth in that same old order every time. Now you don't have to. The third part of Dragon Battle Collection that is good is the What If Collection. There are a lot of What If battles this time around compared to Tenkaichi 3, and even though the creativity of them ranges from really stupid to pretty sweet, it's a solid addition. I have several favorites from the bunch, and the one I'm going to share with you here is the 2-round fight between Vegito and Gogeta. I mean, come on, Gogeta versus Vegito, and you get to play as both? It's epic, it's interesting to think about on your own, and it's funny. Then of course there's other stuff like Zarbon and Dodoria auditioning for the Ginyu Force, Future Trunks fighting his kid form, and of course the battles with Super Saiyan 3 Broly and Super Saiyan 3 Vegito. Despite some really dumb what-ifs too, like Tien and Chaozu proving they're the best tag team, they overall did a really nice job. Now it's time to look at the downs. As usual with DBZ games, the storytelling is poor and would confuse non-fans of the show. Raging Blast has every canon battle from Dragon Ball Z, like over 100, and it's really long, which makes the poor storytelling a problem. The cutscenes play out in a similar fashion to BT3, basically some story-related banter between you and your opponent to pump you up for the fight. In fact, if you want to understand the story of the battle in context, you have to read an optional, short-written recap of the battle's plot in the menu. Come on! I don't think it's too big of a deal though, because most people who are going to play this are DBZ fans already familiar with what happens. But the sheer length of this mode can be seen as a pro, because it makes the game last longer and gives you more to do. And then we come to the infamous Stars system. Basically, Stars is a currency in this mode that you go to the Star Shop with and spend a certain amount on for different things like costumes, extra story mode stages, and stuff like that. Actually, the battles that unlock Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Broly have to be bought in this shop for 20 stars each, so if you want to play as them, you have to collect 40 stars. And of course, there's a lot of other stuff to get from the shop. The concept by itself isn't a bad idea, it's been done before in many games. The problem is how you get these stars. Basically, after you beat each battle in story mode, you can go back to it and you will discover there are 3 optional missions you can complete for a star each. These missions include stuff like doing a certain move several times, beating your opponent on the hard difficulty, beating your opponent without using super attacks, etc. Now first of all, why aren't these star collecting mission objectives given to you before you play the battle the first time? I mean seriously, the fact that you have to beat the battle regularly, then replay it a couple of times to fulfill the mission objectives is annoying and wastes time. Second of all, collecting stars as a whole is a very tedious and repetitive process. It gets old fast, but hey, if you want that cool stuff in the shop, you gotta do it. And even though technically you're doing different things here, still this in a way kinda defeats the purpose of some of the stuff in the Super Battle Trial modes. But whatever. The only good thing about the star system is that it really pushes you to become a master of this game and helps you improve your skills. But like I said, that's the purpose of some of the other modes anyways. Overall, I have mixed opinions on Dragon Battle Collection. Some things about it are good, some things about it are bad. Online. The online mode is usually what gets people excited about a game the most, and because of that, it is one of the most important aspects. Raging Blast has a pretty good online mode, and it is definitely my favorite part of this game. Besides your regular player matches, friend battles, and ranked battles, Raging Blast has a really fantastic option, and that is participating in online 8-player or 4-player tournaments. These are really fun because it brings out your competitiveness, and it's just really fun to emulate the World Tournament from Dragon Ball, because I thought the tournaments were one of the more exciting parts of the series. So kudos to Spike and Namco Bandai for having an online tournament option. Online mode works fine for the most part. There is little to non-lag most of the time, which anyone who's played BT3 on the Wii should be glad to hear. Also, the settings that it gives you to be able to host your tournaments privately, block certain characters from being used, etc. are pretty good. So yes, it delivers and you'll get a lot of fun out of it. This is where I ended up spending most of my time while playing Raging Blast. That is not to say that online mode is flawless. There are several problems with it. The first one is the sheer amount of spammers on it. Yes, this mode can be a lot of fun, when you get decent opponents, that is. But like I said, the fighting engine encourages spamming, so whatever. Another problem is that the online mode allows withdrawing from a fight easily. If you're just about to lose a battle, you can just bring up the pause menu and leave the fight, which is cheap. Fortunately, if someone does do that, it's not going to affect you and you'll still be the winner of the fight. Then of course there are connection problems. I've been disconnected from tournaments and online battles several times, which is bothersome. Still, this is to be expected in online mode, so not a big deal. I do have two complaints with the online tournaments though. The first one is that there is a glitch while you're waiting for other people to join the tournament you joined. Sometimes while you're in this phase, the game will freeze on you, and you can't even leave without going to the main PS3 menu and quitting the game altogether. And of course, starting the game over to get back to the online mode is pretty annoying. Actually, it can be pretty annoying waiting for an 8-player tournament to start, because not only is it usually 20 minutes after you join that the host actually starts the tournament, but you're also in risk of the glitch. 4-player tournaments get started a lot smoother, so I enjoy those more. The second complaint I have has to do with when a tournament is started without a full amount of people participating in it. For example, let's say there's an 8-player tournament being held, but the host can only get 7 people to join before he starts it. That means that one person doesn't get an opponent in the first round, and instead gets a CPU opponent. Now, instead of actually fighting the CPU opponent, you just automatically beat it, which means that now you have to wait 5 minutes for the other players' battles to end before you can actually fight. This is also annoying because there isn't a spectator option for the battles, so you're just forced to sit there and wait or do something else. Why not have the ability to actually fight the CPU opponent? Why not have a spectator option so you can watch the other battles? I don't know. Anyways, despite those flaws, I still think the online mode is pretty good, especially if you want to play against someone on your friends list you already know. I know I spent most of the time looking at flaws and faults, but that's because they take longer to explain. But now, how about Raging Blast in comparison to Budokai Tenkaichi 3? Which one do I prefer? To be honest, BT3. Now, it's really important to know that I played the Wii version of BT3 and not the PS2 version, because if I had played the PS2 version, I would have said Raging Blast. The reason I like Budokai Tenkaichi 3 more is because it had more advanced melee options, obviously more characters. It covered the original Dragon Ball series, which is actually my favorite out of the trilogy, and I found the motion controls for the super attacks on the Wii version to be very fun to do. Also, people always bash the Wii version's online mode for sucking because of its lag, but I actually enjoyed it because I got to play with friends who weren't very far away, and the connection was fine, so I guess I was lucky. But overall, Budokai Tenkaichi 3 felt like a more balanced and well-done game compared to Raging Blast, in my opinion. Still, Raging Blast is the first of its series, so of course it was more of a test than anything else, and I can't wait to see what they do with sequels to this game, because this series has a lot of potential. I'd give Dragon Ball Raging Blast somewhere between a 7 and a 7.5 out of 10. It does many things right, but it is still lacking. Please post a comment, rate, and subscribe. See ya!